The saga over who will be the next Speaker of the House on Capitol Hill continues today after a lot of back and forth yesterday.
Maybe the third time's the charm for Ohio Republican Jim Jordan, who will be up for another vote later this morning. This as the clock is ticking on an aid package to Israel and Ukraine. And we're also coming up with another possible government shutdown. Congress is in uncharted territory. So joining us this morning with more insight on what this means and where we could go from here is political analyst Morgan Pehme. Thanks so much for being with us, Morgan.
Hi.
All right, so yesterday morning, Jim Jordan said he was taking his name out of the race. He wasn't going to do it at all. And then an about face after that closed door Republican meeting. So what do you think his chances are that the third time is the charm?
I don't think they look very good. You know, there are many people who have succeeded in politics being bullies, and certainly Jim Jordan has used bullying tactics to try to win this race. But once you show weakness, as he's shown twice this week, first when he said he was going to call a second vote immediately, and now when he did this about face on this third vote, you know, it shows folks that he doesn't have the votes and isn't really a show of strength.
And the second time around, it got worse for him.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little, you know it's pretty bad when people who aren't even on the ballot get voted on. Lee Zeldin, one of them. What happened there?
Well, you can vote for anyone to be the Speaker of the House. Like Craig, maybe you'll end up the Speaker at the end of this.
They ain't ready for that.
I don't think you want that job. But yes, you know, anybody can be the Speaker of the House, and that just shows what chaos the body is in right now.
So what about this idea to extend the powers of the interim speaker?
Well, you know, it makes sense from the standpoint that right now the House can't govern, and obviously there are many important issues around the world that need to be addressed. But the problem is it also sets a constitutional precedent. You know, the body is supposed to get together and elect a speaker to be the third in line for the presidency. And so the idea that now you're going to empower an interim speaker will upend the process and may be problematic for the future.
Yeah, talk about problematic and pressure. Last night, the president going on the air calling for another $100 billion in aid for Ukraine and Israel. But that can't happen until there's a House Speaker. So is this increased pressure on Republicans?
Well, that's certainly what the president is trying to do, to expose the fact that the Republicans are in disarray, that they can't govern, they can't address Israel right now, they can't address Ukraine, that we're coming to another government shutdown. And so this is certainly him pointing out that what a problematic situation the entire Congress is in right now.
How much is this dividing the Republican Party?
I mean, I think this is exposing divisions that have been simmering for quite some time now. I mean, you have moderate Republicans who are disillusioned with the right wing really taking power. You have folks within the right wing of the party who feel that the right wing has abandoned its principles. And so when you have such a slender majority in the House, you need everybody to be on the same page, and the Republicans are far from it.
Listen, we've got a little time here. You know, I got to ask you because you know, 2 votes for Jim Jordan. Both of them, he lost votes. They're talking about the possibility of a third one. I mean, what is so toxic about Jim Jordan for the Republican Party right now?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on where you're coming from. There are many people in the Republican Party who love Jim Jordan, but he is also a bomb thrower. He is a person who has gummed up the works for years. He is a person who is not going to be receptive to voting for the aid packages that many Republicans believe are absolutely necessary. He will be very receptive to shutting down the government. And then he also has, you know, an aura of personal scandals around him involving his days as a wrestling coach.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is at one point in the voting, Democratic Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries had more votes. So I'm curious, do you think more people will be putting their name in the ring now, or do you think that it's pretty much solidified who's going to try to get that
I think we're going to see a whole rash of new Republicans surfacing as potential candidates. Probably a lot of folks who most people haven't heard about, even haven't heard their names before. You know, there are so many rumors as to who could emerge here, but it seems very difficult for anybody to be able to build a consensus, because if you're coming from the moderates, you're going to be unpalatable to the right, and if you're coming from the right, you know, you really have to be able to make a firm case to the folks who worry that you're still going to be in paralysis, incapable of governing.
And not even taking sides on this, the American public in the middle, why should the American public look at this as a very serious situation?
Yeah.
Well, right now you have an entire branch of government that is not functioning. You cannot pass laws, you cannot allocate money, you cannot do any of the most basic functions of government. So right now we're really at a standstill. You know, we always look to the president for leadership, but Congress is really the first among equals, and it is set up as such in the Constitution to be the core instrument of governance in this country.
Yeah, and we're getting so close to a possible government shutdown.
Yes.
It's just a few weeks away.
Yeah, and we don't have a mechanism right now to even address the government shutdown. So, I mean, that seems an increasingly likely scenario.
So basically, in terms of work, we have a congressional shutdown. Right now.
We just have a shutdown virtually of our entire government.
Oh, great. Well, Morgan Pehme, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you,
Always
Craig
great
Hazel.
perspective. A lot to do in Washington over the next few days,
Let's
right?
get it done. The vote's supposed to come up at 10 o'clock this morning.